No Man's Sky is already closing in on its ninth anniversary, couldn't you believe? Which to me, that is just absolutely nuts. But anyway, the initial release date is an absolute shadow of the game that we have today, as it has had significant updates added to it multiple times a year in most of those 9 years. And those have affected pretty much every aspect of the game in one way or another. But one thing for me has been a little bit of an issue over a number of years, even with all of these awesome updates Hello Games have pumped out, and the issue still remains. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get stuck into what that actually is. I am going to preface this video by stating that I do love No Man's Sky, and I have done for the 7 or so years that I've actually been playing it. I mean, hell, I wouldn't have a YouTube channel with it as my primary game if I didn't like it at all. But with that being said, there is always some room for improvement. Because at the end of the day, no game is perfect, right? There's always something you could say, imagine how good it would be if they tweaked that, or added this thing in, or whatever. So this video is my opinion on the game in its current state, but once you've heard that, at the end of the video, I'd love to hear if you left a comment about your thoughts around No Man's Sky in its current state as well. So what is the issue that I have with No Man's Sky in its current form? Now, bear in mind, I think this is the only issue I have with No Man's Sky, I guess, though technically it could be a couple of issues all stemming from the same main issue. And I've seen a lot of others have said the same thing as me, and that issue is the game lacks depth. And as an aside to that, a lot of the features in the game do not link together at all. Well, yeah, at all. And what I mean by that is a lot of the features feel like smaller mini games within a giant parent game, which is No Man's Sky. I'm talking about features like settlements, for example. Settlements are pretty much totally isolated from all other aspects of the game, and not to mention you can effectively complete your settlement in a short amount of time and then basically be done with it. Another example, or maybe two examples actually, would be the recent fishing update and the archaeology, aka relics updates. Like, they're cool little mini games you can play here, but they're not connected to the rest of No Man's Sky universe, barring you can put a neat display in your base. But then that might open up another conversation around bases and them not being connected to other stuff either. Boy, do I sound like I'm on a massive rant already, don't I? And I can promise you this is just me brain dumping some thoughts here. As I said, I absolutely love No Man's Sky as it is, but it can be improved. So let's talk about the No Man's Sky update, shall we? For starters, I love the overall updates that we get from Hello Games, especially the fecking massive ones, like both of the recent Worlds Part 1 and Worlds Part 2 updates. Those were definitely needed and in my opinion actually exceeded my initial expectations. More of that, please. But not to mention, they're all free for existing players, which is almost unheard of these days in the gaming industry, because the gaming industry is full of greedy buggers. So huge kudos to Hello Games, as always, you guys are great. I don't want to sound like a bratty kid here because I am so grateful for them and all they've done to the game with all these free updates and whatever. However, there are a couple of things lacking from most No Man's Sky updates. The two worlds one aside, of course, because those were amazing overhauls. But the things missing is the fleshing out and improvement of existing No Man's Sky features. Now, I know a lot of players agree with me on this because I've spoken to them. So, like, let's say Hello Games, if they did a year of the usual, 3 or 4 updates, if they focused that entirely on fleshing out existing features, fixing some bugs and quality of life issues, instead of adding something brand new, like fishing, for example, which we can effectively complete in a couple of hours, or it's just a repetitive task in the first place, if they did that instead, whilst leaving everything else untouched, I think we'd love it. So I know a lot of players said the same thing. And I wouldn't be very good if I said that without giving an example, would I? So let's take settlements as an example here for fleshing it out. Right now, you can add a few different buildings here and there. You can try and improve the happiness of residents. You can sort out disputes and get some money for resources from it and then defend it from those pesky corrupt sentinels. And that's it. Overall, it's all very surface level stuff that we can't really delve further into. So why can't we expand it further? Maybe, for example, add trading to it, get involved with the trading routes within the system. How about additional daily quests or just quests in general which don't involve building a new building and instead require us to say, I don't know, go out and gather a certain resource, inspect other settlements, hell, raid other settlements for their resources and whatnot, start a war, I don't care. Something more. And then we'd have to protect our own from something other than just a few wayward sentinels. I mean, yes, you can make money from settlements at the moment, but if you want money in No Man's Sky, you're better off just building a farm of some sort. Like, that will yield much more money for you than a settlement. But the main thing is, settlements were an amazing addition, but they could be done. There's so much more could be done with them, and I would love to see that in a new update. Another thing I ought to mention here as well is, and it's mainly because it really bugs me, and it's unrelated to settlements actually, but that is the Space Station Override. Now, the Space Station Override was added in the Prisms update, which came out way back in June of 2021, which is almost 4 years ago, and still, the Space Station Override does absolutely nothing. Like, what was the original purpose of the override, and more importantly, why hasn't it been given a proper function in the almost 4 years it's been in the game? It really does beggars belief at this point. It's like, have you ever seen that meme of the two girls and the guy? You know, this one. It's got Sean Murray in there. Ooh, let's go and add a brand new shiny totally unrelated feature like fishing. Like, just give the Space Station Override a fucking proper function that, I don't know, allows us to own and customize space stations. You can probably say this grinds my gears. Does it grind anyone else's gears? It's been a bugbear of mine for a couple of years now. Like, we've even got a space station improvement in the time the Space Station Override has been in the game and had nothing added to it since. Just do something with it, please. But enough of me moaning and moaning on. Those are two examples of features that could be fleshed out. And what I don't get is why Hello Games constantly add small, like sometimes really small new features when some of the existing features are crying out for an overhaul to make them, well, more awesome, I guess. It's not like Hello Games haven't done anything like this in the past. Like, if you look at the Endurance update as an example, where they added a lot more depth to freighters and frigates, especially around the base building side of things within freighters. And then you've got pirate freighters on top of that. You can own pirate freighters. In fact, I've got one myself. Like, stuff like that is more of what we need. In my opinion, well, yeah, we need more, please. And I'm going to say it again. Why do we need fishing in a space exploration game? When you could be fleshing out things like settlements and giving the Space Station Override a function. Now, I briefly touched on this earlier as well, that some features almost seem like they're just isolated from the rest of the game. They're just kind of like mini games within the big parent game of No Man's Sky. So settlements was the perfect example there. But overall, I think a lot of these features would really benefit from being linked to one another whilst also being added upon at the same time. I'll give an example of what I mean here in regards to, say, base building. So let's say you build a base, which is a farm, and then you collect those resources, and then you do whatever the hell you want with those resources. You can use them for crafting, you can sell them, whatever. Great. But why can't you integrate this farm with the trading routes within the system, say, and have NPCs come down and interact with your base? You could barter with them for these resources, set costs higher or lower depending on demand, the economic status, the scarcity or abundance of the resource, and so on and so forth. And that is just one example. I have absolutely no doubt you guys will be able to come up with a load more examples where certain features of the game could be integrated with others. Do you know what? In fact, let me know in the comments what your thoughts would be. Perhaps you can set up a fishing port, maybe have NPCs interact with it, or maybe you can link settlements together and build trading routes between the two. You know, literally anything. Let me know what you'd love to see with existing features being linked together. But anyway, now that you've heard my brain dump on the only real issue I have with No Man's Sky, I'd love to hear your thoughts on the topic. And again, just to reiterate, I do absolutely love this game, but it could be made even better by addressing depth instead of adding smaller brand new features you can complete within an hour or so. I also get that No Man's Sky is more designed to be a bit of a sandbox exploration space game with a variety of stuff to do, but the speed at which Hello Games pumps out large updates, you'd think at least a few of these would involve adding depth to existing things, rather than adding shallow new things. I'm looking at you again, fishing. But anyway, do you agree with me? Do you have a vastly different opinion? Am I chatting bollocks? Or perhaps you have a totally different issue with No Man's Sky altogether, which isn't related to what I've been talking about anyway. Now, either way, leave a comment below letting us know what you think. I'd love to hear some of your thoughts. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed my video. And finally, if you're still here, it would be totally awesome if you could support my channel by hitting those like and subscribe buttons. You can now become a channel member as well. And as always, thank you for watching this rant, and I hope to catch you in my next video, which will not be a rant.